All right, everybody, welcome back to the Lions Pit podcast. I am your host, Nick Gomez. With me today is CEO and founder of Godspeed, Joe Phair. How are you today, man?
Hey, Nick. Doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you coming out here. Welcome to the studio. Welcome to the show. I got introduced to you through our buddy, Eric Bumpus. We were just talking about that. Good dude. Well connected. He's been introducing me to a lot of cool people. So I'm like, all right, sick. Because I love Austin. I've been out here for about 5 years now. And I don't tend to get out too much. Like I'm at the gym, I'm at home, I'm at the golf course. Like those are like my 3 areas that I go to. So obviously like my bubble, my social bubble is usually gym goers. And you were a member at Correct. So you said you were training there.
Yep.
I do remember seeing you there. You're freakishly tall. No, I'm just kidding. But again, glad to have you on, man. And welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was actually born and raised in Austin.
No way.
I can introduce you to some spots if you need. But you're basically a local at 5 years.
Okay. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, we accept you.
Yeah.
You're welcome here.
One of us.
But yeah, man, I used to see you around, or at the time it was called On It, and I loved training there. It was one of the only places you could train with your shirt off.
Yeah.
And so I was vibing there early on in my influencer journey. And yeah, man, it's absolutely stoked to be here.
Cool.
Yeah, stoked to be connected now.
Yeah.
All these years later.
Yeah, all these years later, we finally are interacting in person.
Mm-hmm.
You're one of the few people I've met that's actually like born and bred Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I meet so many transplants here.
Yeah. It seems unique because everybody says that to me. I guess talk about bubbles. I know a bunch of people that were born and raised here, but one of the things that's actually keeping me in Austin and why I want to stay here is because of the black hole of amazing people that is gravitating to Austin. I mean, if you're in the health space, entrepreneurial space, CPG space, even tech space, I mean, there's so many amazing individuals here creating something special. And so I think it would do me a disservice to go to my beach calling, even though it feels so passionate. I can wait a few years.
Right. Yeah. Push that off a little bit.
Yeah.
It does seem like if you're, like you said, any of those fields, whether it's tech, startup, entrepreneurship, like whatever, it seemed like it would be a bad time to leave Austin because it's just getting more and more, like attracting more and more of those people.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a cool scene to be in. Again, I've always been in the fitness industry. So like for me, it's such a fitness-oriented city. Everywhere you look, there's a run club or there's people training for high rocks or whatever the case may be. It's so far ahead of like the biohacking space when you look at, I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And one of my friends was recently in town and I was telling him, I was like, I kid you not, Albuquerque's probably a good 10 to 15 years behind. Because like one of my former boss, he just opened up like a, what he calls like a thermal lab, but it's sauna and cold plunge. And he's one of the few places in Albuquerque that has that at his gym.
Wow.
Yeah. And out here, it's like, you're probably not going to succeed as a gym if you don't have that. Most people have that at their house.
Have it in your garage.
Yeah. I know. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to see just how many people are coming here, how advanced the scene is. But also it has like a very laid back feel to it. Even with all that stuff like booming, it doesn't feel cutthroat. Like when I go to, because I was born in LA and when I go to LA, it feels like a rat race. Like it feels like everyone's like out to get theirs and they don't care like who they step on. But like here in Austin, it's a very welcoming environment, a very welcoming community. I love it, man. I can't see myself moving anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree with all of that. And I haven't experienced too much outside of Austin in the space. I was in the military and I have a whole come up story, but was in San Diego for like 5 years. And so got to experience the West Coast, but from a skewed military naval perspective. But as soon as I moved back, it was game on. I mean, just like there's an event every single night of the week. Doesn't matter if it's a weekday, there's 10 events every night of the week. And you the more open you are to putting yourself in awesome opportunities, the more luck that will occur, right? Where preparation meets opportunity. And so Austin's a great place to manifest that luck. And so that's literally why I moved back after I was enlisted. I enlisted for like 6 years right after high school.
Wow.
Moved right back. Didn't quite jump right into the entrepreneurial scene, but it wasn't long after that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. The first time I came to Austin, it very much reminded me, it had a very similar vibe to San Diego. Like outdoorsy, very fitness oriented, good food, good music. People are just doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Were you on Coronado Island?
I actually lived on the Strand for like my last 2 years in San Diego. So I worked on the island. My first 4 years that I was in, like 2 of them was training. And then another few I spent out at sea. Actually, I got to go on a few deployments with a big like a marine ship. So it was like 400 Marines, 300 sailors, got to sail all around the world, do a bunch of like drills and operations and stuff. This was back in like 2019.
God, you're young.
Yeah. I mean, well, shoot, I'm like 29 now.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I feel young, and I also feel like I've lived a lot of life.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, the military was an exceptional journey, and I'm so grateful for the lessons I learned, the people I got to meet. Because growing up in Austin, I was just an Austinite, and like I went to Barton Springs. I raised hell with my boys and TP'd people and like you know just did all kinds of stuff. But it wasn't until I joined the military where I was like actually around people who grew up in like the cities of New York and like, you know, different states, maybe a ranch in Idaho. Or Maine, just like any old place. And like usually the military doesn't bring people that are like exceptional, like students or workers, because usually you kind of got something else going on that isn't the military. And so I feel like the military brings a lot of people who kind of come from maybe, whether it be broken homes or adverse backgrounds, and then they come together and you know, you have the opportunity to either kind of like, not like submit to the system, but like learn how to be a human and operate with other people, or you can be a dirtbag and like stick to your own, and guess what? You won't rank up. You won't make any more money. People won't like you. You know, you'll get shit jobs. And so it was really, really great for me, just for development, growing.
It's interesting you say that, because I've always kind of had that perception of the military as well. My family was military, grandpa, uncles. Like I've had it. My ex-wife was military. Her family was military.
Wow.
So I've been around it a ton, and like honestly, one of the biggest learning periods of like different military backgrounds for me was with my ex-wife, because her dad was Vietnam. He was a pilot. And so he hosted a lot of Vietnam reunions. And I didn't really know anything about Vietnam other than like what you see on TV, like not really well accepted and, you know, being spit on, called baby killers, all that kind of stuff, right? But going to these reunions, you meet people from all these different backgrounds. And I really gained like a new appreciation for it, because where I grew up, the town is about 3,500 people. And the people from my town that enlisted in the military, I kind of had that perception of you didn't have anything else going. So you went to join the military. And so for me, like there were times where I even did like the pre-ASVAB test and like met with recruiters and all of that. But I was like, it's good to know that I can do that, but I feel like I should be doing something else. But like I've always felt like I could help. Even when I first moved out here, the thought of doing National Guard was like still in the back of my head of like, I can help, like I should help. But I talked to a couple of coaches at the time that were on it, and they were former military, because I always stand like with my hands behind my back. Like I just, for whatever reason, honestly, it feels like a good stretch on my shoulders. That's why I stand like that. And so I got asked if I was former military. I was like, no, like it's one of my big regrets. I didn't serve, always wanted to. But they're like, well, why? And I was like, because I feel like I can help, so I should help. And they're like, honestly, like that mindset alone is like a good enough reason why you shouldn't, because you never get to help in the way you think you can. Like it's always like red tape and following like other people's orders. Like you don't get to help in the way you want to.
Exactly. It's just SOPs, you know, and getting out. I was so grateful for, because I had big aspirations in the military. Like I wanted to do all these things. Most people who join out of like valor or honor are like join into special forces programs or some sort of high level program like that. But yeah, when I got out, when I got back into reality and just started like questioning certain things, because when you're in the military, it's one track minded. Like you literally, like certain thoughts I had never even like had in my adult life, just like even questioning how certain things in the government and society worked and societal normalities and stuff. And when I got out of the military, I had this like crazy prolonged awakening of sorts, where I started to like really question the norms and stuff. And I think being able to be in the military, because when you're not in the military, like you don't even really question the military. You're just like, oh, they're protecting us, you know, we're doing our job. And like, I'm not saying that's not the case, but like, you know, if you've been into conspiracies or rabbit holes or whatever, there's just, so, you know, there's two sides to every story in history. We've been fed a certain narrative, and when you see the behind the scenes of how the most elite operating forces in the country, in the world operate, it's all SOPs really, unless you're like at the highest level, like maybe like calling shots in a Navy SEAL unit or something. I have no idea, but you know, everybody answers to somebody. It's great. You know, a lot of aspects from the military I've actually felt inclined to implement into my own business.
Oh, nice.
Because getting out of the military, it's like a whole new world where you can be like, oh, I'm in charge now. Like,
Yeah.
and even as an entrepreneur, when you don't have superiors that are keeping tabs on you, or when you don't have some sort of standard operating procedure that holds you accountable, for instance, you know, because you can just be like, oh, I'm off. You could do that every single day in a row, and then like the numbers won't show. But in the military, it's like life or death. And so if you miss a maintenance check on your equipment that you signed off for, and you just said that you did it and you didn't, and then something breaks, it's like you're going to lose rank, you're going to lose pay, you're going to potentially get kicked out.
Yeah.
And I think there's a fine line, because I don't think that we should like be fearful at all times in our nervous system, and like, but we should feel like there's accountability when we're trying to like grow something. Because one thing that the military does do is it yields good professional results, like down to a T, and you actually can't fail when you follow those SOPs. And so it's kind of like fail proof in a lot of ways. It just takes out the intuition, which is just as an equally integral part of how we should be operating. But, you know, there's pros and cons to the whole structure of it all.
Yeah. But like you said, it is good to have that structure in a sense of like bringing it into, now you're responsible for your company or whatever you're trying to do. And you, like you said, you could take time off, you could take days off, whatever. But when the numbers aren't there, who's going to check you? So like you said, to kind of have that built into you, like that does seem like, you know, a benefit of it for sure.
Yeah.
When you got out, did you go straight to Godspeed, or did you try other things before?
Yeah, so it's been such a long journey, but when I got out, I was just out of a relationship. I thought that we were going to be moving here together. We like had a house picked out and everything. We had to go back on our lease because we separated. And so I moved back basically without a plan, not basically any money. My credit score was really, really ass, and I couldn't get approved for any apartments alone.
Yeah.
And so now I was in this situation. You know, my family, some of them had lived here, but like not in environments where I would be welcomed or like even had room to stay. And I just, you know, I had joined the military to kind of like create something for myself. And so like I'd be damned if I like get out of the pool. Like I wanted to, you know, keep swimming, keep moving forward. And so I got in contact with one of my buddies who let me rent a bedroom from him for like $500 per month. And I rented a bedroom, and I got a night shift job at Samsung Semiconductor in North Austin.
Okay.
And so it's a semiconductor plant, which, you know, we were making microchips for like iPhones and like Tesla and all these things with Samsung. They're one of the largest semiconductor plants in the world. I think it's a South Korean company. I was working the night shift job, barely able to pay my interest payments on my credit cards, like not really having anything else going for me. Almost like feeling like coming to terms with, this is how I'm going to live my life, is like working my ass off every day, like my dad did. And, you know, just slowly trying to make dents. Maybe in 10 years, I'll be able to like start saving, like honestly, if good shit happens.
Right. Yeah.
And so, somewhere along that journey, when I was working that job, I just like had something click, and I just like, I think I had like fully at that point maxed out my credit cards, and I didn't have any money. And I was like, you know, literally just like, it's you either sink or you swim at that point. And so I got a gym membership at Collective actually, and like I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And I could barely even afford groceries, but like something like I just saw like influencers go there. And I at this point I had gotten super shredded at that job because I was like living like Batman. I was literally only working, training during my breaks, eating like, you know, in a caloric deficit, honestly, because I just wasn't over snacking all the time, but still like getting proper nutrients, learning a lot, studying a lot. I was in this fab with no internet, in a clean suit, where just all hours of the night, you know, and we weren't constantly working. And so I would just be on the computers, like studying what I could. I remember I was in Collective and I saw Matt Choi, who's like a popular runner. This was like 4 years ago. And I was like, hey, do you want to go get Sun Life with me? He like said something to me. I was like, oh, we should go get Sun Life real quick. We walked over to Sun Life. I'm eating a bowl with him and I'm like, dude, how can I do what you're doing? I was like, I'm working this job that I hate. And like, you know, this was like 4 years ago again, like before like, you know, there was like so much influencing. There was still like a good amount, but I feel like it was a little bit easier to like jump off that ledge and like kind of start. Not that it's not easy now, anybody can do it. But anyways, I was like, what camera should I get? What lighting should I get? All this stuff. And he was like, have you posted yet? And I said, no. And he was like, all right, you don't need a camera. You don't need lighting. He's like, go post every day for 30 days and then we can have another conversation. And he was like, download CapCut too. And I was like, oh, thanks. And that saved my life. I mean, CapCut's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I posted every day for 30 days. Nothing happened. But then I kept going. And I went like 60 days, 90 days. And I started to slowly get followers. And I got my page to like 10,000 followers over the course of like 6 months.
Very nice.
And then
what were you posting at this time?
I was posting motivational running and gym content.
Okay.
So this was before I had invested in any sort of like high quality production where I like hired somebody to come film me running. But I was, you know, I only went to Collective for like a month or two because I could barely afford it.
Right.
And so then I moved to On It, which like was more affordable, and I got to meet.
Still not cheap, but yeah.
And so I only went to On It for a few months too, but you know, I've been to On It like 3 times actually there, and it's like a toxic ex, you know.
You keep going back.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't call us toxic.
No. Y'all aren't toxic at all. It's just like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
It's location. It's not you. No,
it's me. It's you know, we live so far apart. It's tough, you know. But I'll hit you up next weekend.
And so, man, I was literally, I could barely even edit my workouts. Like I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to do anything. And then I hired this girl with a video from Mexico who charged super, super cheap to come film super high quality slow motion videos for me. And then nice. I would get like viral sounds on Instagram Reels and screen record them on my phone and put high quality 4K videos of me running, like looking good essentially. On those with like motivational captions. And I would use the captions literally as like blog posts. So like my earliest like 300 videos, reels probably, all have like mega long captions where I'm just like literally like a blog. And so I would just talk about adversity. I'd be like, you're the only one who can. You know, you're the hero. Like nobody's coming to save you. Like I was just locked in because I was in debt, fighting. I still had the deep warrior fire, and I was just like scrapping. Like I came from the gutters, Polo G, Lil Baby, Moneybag Yo in my headphones, like running marathons in order to like, you know, it's deep there. But I think ultimately, in order to just work through things, push myself, test myself, work through trauma. Because it's like, it's not healthy for you, I don't think, biologically to run marathons.
No.
But like the strategic adversity though is so beneficial. And so basically this long journey of I began to influence, and then I began to coach people online. And so, you know, not like what you guys are doing at On It in the Human Performance Center. I had no physical training experience other than helping train people in the Navy and on myself. And so I was basically helping people go from like 0 to like, okay. Like people would come to me who like wanted to run their first like 3 miles, or like maybe some people would come and be like, oh, I need to lose 10 pounds, or like I want to get, you know, see my abs for the first time in 10 years, like stuff like that. And I wouldn't even take on like anything that was out of my scope. I would just refer them to other people, but I was able to make a decent income from that, as well as brand deals. And so then it was really, really great. And I was able to leave that job at Samsung. Nice. So like a year in, I left that job and I took the chance, and I wasn't even making enough money to really cover like my new mortgage. I used my VA loan to buy a house in Kyle.
Oh, nice.
And so then once I used my VA loan, I was like, oh, I don't need my income anymore because I signed the loan. Yeah. And so now it's like, as long as I can pay it, I'm good. I don't need to have like the steady income. I can get it from whatever sources I want.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You don't have to have like a
years of,
Yeah,
yeah,
check
because it's
stubs.
hard to get
Yeah,
approved for loans and stuff, and even credit cards and stuff. And you know, they don't tell you that when they're like, quit your job, become an entrepreneur. It's like, okay, for the next 3 years, it might be hard getting credit cards then if you
yeah,
don't have, you know,
reoccurring.
consistent income. And it's hard,
Yeah.
like when you're self-employed, you actually got to have it for like 2 years before the IRS will even take it seriously.
Oh wow.
And so it's really deep. There's a lot to this.
Mhm.
Yeah, it worked out for me. You know, whenever I jumped off the ledge, you know, into the water, again, like a common theme for me is I believe that sink and swim scenarios are necessary.
Yeah.
And I will subconsciously put myself into them if like life doesn't put me into them sometimes if I need it to propel myself forward.
Yeah.
Like literally just like in the divinity, in the way that the universe is contracting and expanding, like that's kind of how I'm moving with this. And so now I see adversity almost as like a cheat code where you can like lean into it and actually like, you know, you just know that you're going up the hill in order to create all this forward momentum or
Yeah.
like whatever it is, however you see it or perceive it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did all that. And then, I mean, dude, there's literally so much in between Godspeed. We would need like multiple hours, but basically like, let me sum up the big things for you. But basically after that, I had a traumatic brain injury
Oh no way.
where I almost like basically like became paralyzed. And so for several weeks, I could barely move or speak. My baby mama and girlfriend at the time was taking care of me, wiping my ass, showering me. Like it was brutal. And I was coherent at the time, but I was just experiencing these crazy things in my spine, like literally like electrical shock type shit because
If you don't mind me asking how that happened.
I was taking a piss and I fainted. So it was completely random. I wasn't under the influence of anything. I was sober. I had ran like 7 miles in the morning, but I was properly hydrated. Like that was just another day for me.
Yeah.
And so like nothing was out of the norm. I was peeing and that's literally the last thing I remember. And then my girlfriend was standing over me. I was like, how long was I out for? Like 20 seconds, basically. Like I could barely speak. And then my whole body like erupted in a sweat. And so she had to like strip all my clothes and like she took me to the hospital, like all of these different things. I had to get CTs and all these different things. And basically I got a cerebellum lesion, which is like a cut in a specific part of your brain that deals with like balance and coordination. Luckily, that specific part of it wasn't like, you know, anything with like memory or like, I mean, the brain is so complex. I don't even fully understand it.
Sure, yeah.
But
few people do.
dude, that was like such a big thing in my life because I had PTSD. I still do, like, honestly, like I just have like random moments where I'll just like feel it and like my whole body like
Ugh.
and I'm still dealing with muscles that like had to like protect
Mhm.
that haven't like fully released yet.
Yeah.
You know what
like
I'm
your
saying?
nervous system feel like in defense
Exactly.
mode.
And I've
Yeah.
done so much work around it. So much. I've done quantum frequency devices. I've done ketamine therapy. I've done hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy. I've done so much breath work, fascial releases, you know, everything I can think of. And at this point, you know, it's been such a journey with the nervous system, but we can get back into that.
Sure.
But for the whole journey, you know, bird's eye view, had a TBI, entered like a mega spiritual healing phase where I felt like it was life or death. And I literally had to in order to survive, you know, finding the edge, working through the traumatic brain injury, working with like what's real and fake, re-entering reality, you know, experiencing bouts of psychosis, multiple things from this TBI. Like it was a severe concussion as well as the cut, and then the physical stuff. And then like as soon as I was like decently healed, I got my now baby mama pregnant.
Mhm.
And so like right into that journey, I found out that I was going to become a father. And so we were going through our own problems and different things, but ultimately we decided to separate and co-parent
Mhm.
amongst this,
Yeah.
you know, and that was its own journey. And so Godspeed was built in the healing process and after those two big life events.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, ever since then I've been rebuilding and you know, I feel foundationally strong right now and I feel good and focusing on fatherhood, growing the mission of Godspeed, my physical, mental, spiritual health. And yeah, that's really like bird's eye view, kind of like big events in the
Sure.
story that have led me to where I am now.
That's wild.
Yeah, super wild.
Yeah, I mean, great. It's awesome to hear. Glad you're, on the up and up, and obviously everything seems to be going in the right direction. Did they ever say what caused the lesion?
They said that it was a vasovagal syncope. So that's essentially like an
What does that mean?
extended like blood, like head rush. Like, so, whenever you stand up and like, you're like, whoa,
Uh-huh.
like they said that because I'm like a bigger guy, like it's very plausible that the only thing that they could say, like the most plausible cause, like not 100%, but the most plausible reason was that I had this extended blood release where it just took a while. And people have reached out because on Instagram I posted about this. At this point, I had accrued an audience of like 60,000 and they were very engaged, and I had hundreds of people reach out and they were like, oh, my brother has the same thing. He's like, just be careful. It usually happens at night. Like it usually happens when you're like slightly dehydrated, but it's not as unique as I thought. And so other people experience fainting while using the restroom because of extended blood releases.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I've never heard of that.
Because like your body is like, because it's this weird thing when you're peeing, you have to enter the parasympathetic, your nervous system, in order to feel safe enough to even fucking let the stream out.
Yeah.
But by doing that, it's like doing this weird thing with your blood. And so it's like conflicting. And so it's only like a few, not everybody experiences it, but.
Does that typically happen to taller people?
I think so. Yeah. Larger people.
Through your experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I've heard.
Thank God I'm 5'8".
Yeah,
Like
again, pros and cons.
To the height. Yeah, pros and cons. I fit on airplanes just fine.
There you go.
So what is Godspeed?
Godspeed is a hydration and energy drink. So basically, when I was going through my recovery journey, I was super into supplements, super into like Ben Greenfield for like the last almost decade, listening to like every episode of his podcast. I've been a self-proclaimed like biohacker, supplement nerd at times. And so basically I took the healing and recovery process really, really seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I was experimenting with multiple things for my journey. So it wasn't just supplements. Like I said, I was using quantum frequency devices where I was paying thousands of dollars for like massive packages, like kind of just like at this point having to take a step away from business and decide to like basically use everything that I had built to now get me back to baseline again. And so that's like kind of where I was at. And so I was just like, oh, I'm healing. Like I'm not going to focus on it, literally anything except for healing, because that's how like intense it was for me.
Yeah.
I experimented with ketones. I experimented with Ketone IQ. That used to be a brand that I worked with back in the day.
Okay.
And so I know the founder. Now I'm actually doing a ketone education series on Instagram where I've learned so much over the last few years, but originally I was using R13-butanediol in order to use ketones to help give brain fuel to my brain, that fourth macronutrient.
Mm-hmm.
And I then found out about ketone salts, which that's that Go BHB. So Godspeed uses Go BHB, which the ketones are bioavailable already. So basically the difference between R13-butanediol and Go BHB ketone salts is that R13-butanediol is a precursor. So whenever you drink it, your liver converts it into bioavailable BHB. So it converts it into BHB, which is what's already bonded to the salts. But by doing so, you're entering 7 to 8 liver biological processes in the midst of that just to convert it to bioavailable ketones that are, to circulate in your bloodstream. And so basically, in my opinion, I don't deem that as the most efficient way to ingest ketones. Also, there's multiple other aspects to it, but for athletes in particular, if you're like balls deep in a training session or even a marathon, a fight, whatever it is, the last thing you need is additional organ processes. You probably just want to take something that's uber bioavailable that enters directly into your bloodstream and gives you exactly what you need almost instantaneously.
Yeah.
And so that's where I found ketone salts to be incredibly profound, because not only are they giving you instantaneous ketone energy, but they're also hydrating you at the same time. Okay. And so it's like this super fuel source, literally, for not only ketones. And so we used that as the foundation of our product. What if we could create a hybrid ketone and hydration product and then, not stop there? And so then we added all of these energy, nervous system regulating components, different things that I deemed that when I was going through my healing process, and which I could use, just to try to get to baseline. That means that people at baseline can use this to excel even further, is the methodology behind it. What can I put all into one formula that's easy to take, better for you without any bullshit, that's like actually like just gets to the fucking of what I want, no filler bullshit.
Yeah.
And so that's what we made with Godspeed. And so I was basically, I had like 20 pill bottles, on my counter every single morning. I had my electrolytes in this glass. I had my espresso in this glass. I had my ketone IQ shots here. And I was like, how can we condense this to where I don't need to take all these pills anymore, and I can use them strategically, but have like my potion, my fuel. And so Godspeed has the ketones, it has the electrolytes, it has paraxanthin, which is this, I think you're familiar, you work with Correct. They use the ingredient as well. And basically why it's so profound for energy is because when you're consuming standard caffeine, like through coffee, it's basically, I want you to think coffee too as a precursor. Or caffeine as a precursor. The caffeine isn't the direct energy source that you're getting. It's the precursor that your liver then takes and converts the caffeine into multiple caffeine metabolites. And so paraxanthin is one of those.
Okay.
Theobromine is one of those. Theophylline is one of those. And different metabolites are either vasoconstricting or vasodilating. And so the ones that are vasodilating, like paraxanthin and theobromine, are associated with crash-free, jitter-free energy because your brain is literally not getting constricted at a blood vessel level whenever you're not consuming metabolites like theophylline, which are vasoconstricting. And so that's a big part of the crash and jitters. There's other aspects of it as well. And so paraxanthin accounts for like 80% of the energy effects from caffeine. We have paraxanthin and theobromine. So if you've ever drank cacao, they say the heart opening effect. It's like, it's a thermogenic agent, cacao. It expands your blood passageways. That's from theobromine, which is an additional vasodilating caffeine metabolite. And so we're using paraxanthin, theobromine, so literally all the good parts of coffee, basically, without any of the bad parts. And then we're also putting in L-theanine, which paired with caffeine in general acts as like a slow drip release mechanism, where it's like taking a staircase of energy as opposed to an elevator straight up and down. With, again, that crash. L-theanine helps promote nervous system regulation. L-tyrosine for dopamine production. And so that's like, if you smoke weed a lot, or if you are constantly scrolling content or doing high stimulation activities, like L-tyrosine can be phenomenal, and it can feel very satiating for the brain. Track athletes will use it before events for like 100-meter dashes in order to like literally make their reflexes and brain work faster, and that whole dopamine reward system. And then we separated ourselves into the better for you category by using a real food organic lemon powder and not using any natural or artificial flavors.
Oh, wow.
Not that I'm not a fan. Like I drink Zevias and Olipops and shit, and like they have natural flavors. Granted, there's tiers of quality when it comes to natural flavors, but we're just using organic real food lemon powder, organic stevia, organic monk fruit. Not to hate on anybody else, but I think that there's a new emerging crowd of people who kind of just want to at least be able to know exactly what it is. And so even if you are listening to this and you use natural flavors, I think that it benefits founders to actually say like organic natural lemon flavor, like whatever it is. That way people can know that it's actually coming from a real fruit as opposed to like beaver anus gland, which is approved to be used as a natural flavor for vanilla. And that's why Paul Saladino, that's literally why Paul Saladino and everybody freaks out about natural flavors. A big reason why is because beaver anus gland is approved to be used. And we've used that for vanilla natural flavoring early on, and nobody uses it anymore. But it's approved.
Who found out that that's like...
But it's approved.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
what a wild...
That's why, but that's the whole industry, bro.
Yeah.
There's so many nuances that people can be like, oh, did you know that this is a carcinogen and causes cancer? Did you know that this makes you infertile if you consume stevia? When it's like 200,000 times the amount of the dose, and for rats.
Yeah, almost like an unconsumable amount by a human.
Completely and totally. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's like a high view of Godspeed. And basically it's mainly for athletes. That's who's kind of like who's been keen to the supplement, and lots of high rocks people, marathon runners, and also just the average person who just needs some clean hydration and energy before going off to work, and they find themselves in a similar situation maybe as me, where they're trying to pick between a bunch of supplements, and then ultimately, you know, we sell it for a really nice price, where if you're buying all these supplements monthly, that's literally like $1,000 for everything I just mentioned.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, that's what we made it for.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Thank you.
How many, what kind of different forms does it come in? Is it like a RTD? Is it a powder pack? Like what do you, both?
It's a powder pack right now.
Okay.
So we've flirted with RTDs at events. So we have like a canner.
I feel like I saw some pictures of some cans.
Yeah. No, we have RTDs and they're freaking fire, dude. And I love RTDs. I want to do RTDs. If you're hearing this right now, you'll probably see one in the future. But they're just really expensive right now.
Sure.
And I'm a new founder. And like money goes so fast in this journey. And I've just learned so many lessons about, right now I'm focused on pushing Godspeed lemon flavor. And once I build something really amazing, which is well on its way, you know, we've been doing really great recently. Up until last month, we basically hadn't done any paid advertising, and I'm just learning about all these different ins and outs of the game, and it's so phenomenal. But as soon as we have the money, you know, I would love to get into some RTDs, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of RTDs. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big powder pack guy. I always have my Yeti with me. You know, Correct does have their fuel that's a powder pack, but man, this sounds like you said, it's geared towards athletes. And so up until recently, up until like a month ago, I was in fight camp. I was going to have a Muay Thai fight on March 7th. Turns out I have a hernia. Things aren't working out. Hopefully I'll get on a card August 1st. But man, my body was crashing. Like I was having like late nights training. I'd be working all day and then I'd go hit 3 Muay Thai classes a night. And then not the last one I hit, but one of the last classes I hit, it was 2, like a pads class, a regular like skilled like technique class, and then we did a clinch class. And after that clinch class, I had this weird like central nervous system response, like a CNS response, where I like before I even left the parking lot, I felt inflamed. I was like, man, my joints don't feel good. I feel like really hot. I'm not cooling down. I had to stop by AGB. It was like 10 o'clock at night. I'm walking around the grocery store and I'm like, dude, my body feels like ass. And I couldn't sleep that night. I woke up the next morning. I had like a swollen lymph node. I was like, what the hell's going on? So I put all this into like Chat GPT, and it's like, and I told them like, you know, I put in there how it happened, and they're like, yeah, you know, constant like isometric holds, people pulling on the back of your head and your neck, which is clinch work. It sounds like, you know, a CNS like overload. And it took me like 4 or 5 days to recover off that. And I was like, man, I feel like there's something. And I'm working with a nutritionist and she's great, but like, and she did recommend like a bunch of supplements to begin the fight camp, but like the supplement side, I'd never really got into. I kind of stick to like my basics. I take like vitamin D, ashwagandha. I do the correct energy packs. But I was like, man, there's something missing. So like, so I'd be very curious to like try that out, especially after I get this hernia situation resolved.
Dude,
and
course.
Get back into fight camp.
Dude, of course. Yeah, absolutely, man. And the whole, I mean, what you just spoke on, the whole nutrition and just knowing what our biology is satiated on is really tough, even with consistent blood testing. And so a lot of this game is like the Wild West, in my opinion. And you really got to take it upon yourself to like see what works. And like part of that is intuition. Part of that is studying and knowing what humanity thinks we know about it, so that you can cross-reference with like intuition and all these different things. And then, you know, we don't have all the answers, but I think it's at least good to be proactive about it. And so, you know, I always come back to the basics as the most important. And so it's literally like it's like a hierarchy. And I own a supplement company, but I don't think that that's step 1.
Yeah.
I don't think it's step 2 or step 3. You know, I think step 1 is an actual step. Like, you know, moving your body, and then, you know, sunlight, having your micronutrient levels topped off, macronutrient levels. Like certain people could probably benefit from using more carbohydrates, in my opinion. There's all these diet fads. And then also things like iron and zinc, you know, those can be tough to get unless you're eating like literally raw liver. Even the desiccated capsules are like 1/10 of the amount of certain minerals and vitamins that you're going to get from it. And there's other things as well, but just like kind of at least not writing stuff like that off is like woo-woo or like a marketing ploy, and like, you know, just look up the data that you want. Look up like what minerals and vitamins, even with ChatGPT, does a human need to thrive optimally? Maybe like one particular to you. And then you can be like, well, where do I get that from different foods? You can see what you have in your diet, and you can literally know what you're lacking or what you're probably getting, at least at like a super, super broad level. And so like, honestly, so much of this is just knowing what questions to ask, and then having even the want to, because anybody can dive into the health game.
Yeah.
And I think we're all constantly living it, just being alive. But
yeah, living case studies.
Literally.
Yeah. I mean, what was your background before you got into it? Like,
I was big into sports.
mhm.
I mean, I have there's so much stuff to talk about. There's so much to get into. We're not going to have time for all of it.
We can run another episode.
Yeah. Probably a part 2 is warranted. But a big part of it is my parents and my family. And honestly, just recently, my father passed away just a few weeks ago, and he passed away unexpectedly at 61.
If you don't mind me asking, what from?
It's still undetermined, but he
wow.
just passed away in his sleep. And
Wild.
so they're running a toxicology report amongst multiple things. And, that's part of it is like, just grieving him without having those answers.
Yeah.
And like, just, grieving him without saying goodbye, all these different things, which I'm not here to complain about it, but it was almost like I was mourning his death while he was still alive, because I saw it deteriorating.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that with my mother and other people in my family. And my dad's whole family died within a decade of each other. Both the parents and all 3 brothers. And all 3 brothers weren't even in their 70s yet. Like, all
holy smokes,
potential prime candidates. Like, you can still be prime-ish at that age. I've seen people in great shape, and I'm not here to judge anybody or say like how you should live. But for me, it may, being a father now, I have a 16-month-old son. It makes me want to not even have him have to answer or ask those questions, or like feel that way. And also, this is where it gets interesting. It's like adversity is like so necessary.
Yeah.
It's
such a brutal necessity.
It's such a brutal necessity, but like, and so it's almost like these guys that get raised in adverse early lives and households almost have an advantage if they accept it and use it. And so then if you're one of those people who accept it and use it and then create something for your life, then how are you supposed to curate that adversity then in your children's lives? And it's just a whole nother game. And so that's kind of what I'm jumping into now, and where my mind's been. One of the biggest things is really just being healthy enough to have a good mental, to be healthy enough not to be cranky, to be healthy enough not to have a fucked up nervous system, to be healthy enough to not have dependencies or addictions, and like all of these different things. Like, a lot of it just starts with our physical health, and it manifests into other areas. And so super inspired to do it, from that. And that's been many years. Both of his parents had diabetes, multiple things. And so that, that's a big reason for why I deem health so important is just family reasons.
Yeah, same. That's a big reason why I got into it. At first, I wanted to stay around athletics after my collegiate career was over. But right after my collegiate, actually it was during my collegiate, this is what ended my college baseball career, was my dad passing. And I've told this story before, so I'll make it short, because I've gotten people like, oh, you tell that story often, but it's so much of who I am and why I do what I do. And I also feel like I would be doing a disservice if I didn't tell my story. My dad, he had a massive heart attack, died unexpectedly. I was home with him when it happened. I did CPR on him. And it's one of those things, like, and that was at 21, so that's 17. Actually, next month it'll be 17 years. And it just recently, within the last 3 or 4 years, hit me, like, if my dad were to see what I'm doing now and see the lessons that I learned from his passing and the struggles that I went through, like, he would probably take that exchange. Like, because it is that less, like, the growth that comes from the adversity. Like I said, it's a necessary brutal experience, because like I said, it changed. I would honestly say for the first 7 years after, like, I was very much a shell of myself. Like, I was just going through the motions. I married a good woman, but not the right woman, because I was in search of a family. Like, I was looking for something that I had lost. And so I was in a hurry to try to make that happen. like another life lesson learned through that experience. But it was cigarettes. At the end of the day, it was cigarettes that caused his heart issues. Like his arteries were calcified. He was a relatively healthy guy. He's like like my height, like 5'7", 5'8", walked a ton. But from the time he was 14 years old, he smoked cigarettes, like a pack of cigarettes a day, because he's from Colombia. And that's just, it's very, even still, like I went there a few years ago and we were sitting on my aunt's patio for like 3 hours, and there wasn't a single moment where not at least one person had a lit cigarette. It's just such a part of their culture. Like kind of if you go to like Italy, everyone's like smoking cigarettes out there. So I've never touched a cigarette in my life. Don't get me wrong, like if I golf or like bachelor party, I'll have a cigar. But I've never had a cigarette. I've never even held one to my lips. Like I refuse to do it. And kind of like I was telling you before, I've never been a nicotine guy either.
I mean, 21's young for the dad.
Brother.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And thank you so much for sharing.
Likewise.
Honestly too, like you can't even, I feel like I couldn't even perceive mortality until my father died, because everybody else, it's expected.
Yeah.
Your grandparents, they're expected. It's expected that you might have a friend or two over life. You don't know who it's going to be, but like, it could potentially happen because you hear stories. But like the parents are just like
untouchables.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And so it's like how you were saying, like it almost feels like without it happening though, I would be so lost, because I just, like you said, it was almost so necessary divinely. And I don't want to act like my father died for me or like gave up his life for me. Just the impact that it's had on me, because when my dad was alive, I thought we had more time. And so I was a fucking pill about critiquing him and like, hey, get off the booze, get off the cigarettes. You don't want to live for us? Like I would confront him like that directly. And I told him everything that he did to traumatize me and piss me off and hurt me, but I never got around to the good stuff because I thought we had more time, and I was waiting for him to validate me before I validated him, because he's the dad.
Yeah.
I was like, like just the kid in me just felt like that's what was right.
Yeah.
And then he passed away and I never got the opportunity. And so just the information that's brought in is like so profound, and also the most hurtful of all time, but just so profound. And, I think that's why they say like, a man doesn't even become, this is relative. There's plenty of men with their fathers around, but they say that like a man really becomes a man when his dad dies.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not saying that I just was knighted or anything into manhood. I've got some big shoes to fill, but,
right.
But it feels so true because you don't have that anymore. Like you can't call dad, or like dad's not, the big like figure that's like the protector, and like, that's you now.
Yeah.
It's like passing the torch.
Yeah. And then that's why I quit playing baseball. I was like, I got to take care of the family. My older brother, loved him to death. He started battling his own demons, and he ran for the hills. We didn't see him for a long time. And so it was up to me because, I've always jokingly said I was the favorite son of the favorite son. Big shoes to fill. Like everybody loved my dad. There were so many people at his service I'd never met. Like it was standing room only.
Same, dude.
Yeah. And it was just such a lesson of like, life is short. Like we're not on this ride for long. Like really try to do as much as you can, experience as much as you can, like live it up. But like be good. Like my dad was a good person. That was another thing that I learned. I was like, and this is a Jackie Robinson quote that I love, but it says a man's life is not important except for the impact it has on others. And that was never more profound for me than at his service. And like seeing the amount of people that he impacted, like people I'd never met in tears over my dad. And it was one of those things like it again kind of hit me later on. I think I was probably in some sort of low level of shock for the first few years because like I said, I was there with him. Like doing mouth to mouth on your dad is not anything I would ever wish upon anybody. And especially the fact that he didn't make it, because like years later when I became a coach, I took a CPR certification, and the poor woman doing the certification, she had no idea. She's like, has anyone in here ever done mouth to mouth? Like everyone ever done CPR? And I'm like, sheepishly raised my hand. I'm the only one in the class. And she's like, oh, okay, so you want to explain it? And so I told the story, and she was like, oh, fuck, I should never ask that question again. I was like, it's not your fault. You didn't know. But it was definitely, so I'm 38 now, and probably when I was like 33, 34, it kind of hit me. Again, all the situations I've had to be there for my family for, like, I was like, I'm actually mad at my dad. Like, I'm mad that he's not here right now. Like, I had to learn how to be a man. I was 21. No, few people are a man at 21. Don't get me wrong. Like you said, there are men out there with their fathers at 21 doing that. it wasn't me. I was a student still. I was in college. Like I was a boy doing boyish things. I just turned 21. I was drinking. I was doing dumb shit, you know? And it finally hit me. Like I was like, I'm mad at my dad for not being here. Like I'm going through this alone because I couldn't talk to my older brother about it. And so it took like that realization to forgive him. I was like, he didn't choose. Like again, and now I have that thought of like, if he could see where I am now and what I'm doing now, like he would probably like exchange that, because who knows what I would have been. You know, I probably would have continued to be a boy for a long time had he been around. And so, like he said, you're almost thrust into manhood, and it was that brutal necessity. Like I've been through a lot of wild shit in my life, and I wouldn't be who I am without it. And I'm very much proud of who I am and who I'm continuing to become.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I just feel every bit of that. I feel every bit of that,
You're
man.
young in this journey, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been an amazing journey though. You know, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you'll continue to like see those lessons.
Yeah, I mean, you said it took you a few years to even just get to certain stages, and so honestly, I'm just taking it day by day. And I would be lying if I said that I'm not still crying every day and shit. And like, but again, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. You know, contrast is how we perceive, and so without the darkness, there is no light. Our eyes can't even see this without that.
Right.
Without the in between. And so it's like how beautiful that I feel this grief. That means that I really loved my dad.
Yeah.
And I still do. And so
yeah, that's it's funny that you say that, because I always say that. I'm like, it's like art. Like the darker your darks are, the more contrasting your light can be. You know, those colors really pop if there's a dark there. It's a wild journey, but you know, again, it had to happen. Everyone more likely will lose their parent at some point. My mom's still around, and you know, I'm trying to push her to be healthier every day. But yeah, man, it's a wild time. Yeah,
it's beautiful, man. Live every day like it's your last. You know, that's what I'm doing, is like just kind of living like my dad too, because you know, the brighter you burn, maybe the faster you go out. And so my dad like lived life on his own terms, and he burned super bright, and he knew how to choose joy, which I am super inspired by.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, same with my dad. Like when I go back and I meet family that I either haven't seen in a long time or have never met, and they're telling me stories I've never heard about how wild of a man my dad was. But he was a good man. But and don't get me wrong, when he like in the early 90s growing up in LA, like he ran with a tough crowd, and like it kind of reflected. And once we moved out of California, he very much became a man that I admired and respected, and like just had like I said, when a parent leaves, it's like, that didn't really happen. Like my dad was untouchable. Like my dad was this like Iron Man. And so again, for me to lose my dad, who at that point had become someone that I really admired, it was wild. And I remember sitting in the emergency room, because me and my little sister were the only ones that were home. She unfortunately had to like be on the phone with 911 while I was doing this. And we get to the emergency room, the rest of my family shows up, and we're in like this waiting room. And I knew my dad was gone. Like when they took him out on the stretcher, I was like, that's not my dad anymore. Like that's a shell of like who my dad used to be. And so sitting in the waiting room, the doctors come in, they're like, all right, we heard someone was home with them. Like, do you mind telling us what happened? So I'm going through everything that had happened. I talked to him 15 minutes, not even 15 minutes before, like I found him unconscious. And so I'm telling him what happened, and they're like, well, you know, we regret to inform you, like he didn't make it. And that's when my family lost it. I sat there, I was like, okay, like what's next? Like, what do I got to do next? I would have lost it if they said he was alive. That's like, I would have like completely just flipped my shit if they said he made it. But yeah, just, you know, trying times make us who we are. And it has taught me beautiful lessons. Like I will never follow a script that was written for somebody else. Like I will blaze my own path. I will do my own thing, because that's what my dad did. And that's what he wanted his kids to do. He wanted his kids to travel, like pursue their passions. And that's what I'm doing. And, you know, it's tough.
Totally. And beautiful.
And beautiful. It is beautiful. Don't get me, yeah. I mean, again, I can look back. I mean, I tell so many like stories about the wild shit that happened to me. Like I was homeless as a kid, and I can look back on that. And I'm like, I'm so glad I went through that. I'm so glad I went through like the adversities I've gone through.
Everything you can trace back to some way that it's manifested in progress, or some sort of way that it's taught you a lesson. Everything, man.
Yeah. So I'm curious, where did the name Godspeed come from?
It means good luck on your journey. So it was I have a business partner. So I have a co-founder in the company, and we came to the name after smoking a spliff and having some deep conversation, honestly.
Yeah.
And I just really loved it. It has like a awesome gold aesthetic. And at the time I was super deep on that side of my journey with like the spiritual side of things. And so Godspeed, good luck on your journey. It's really whatever it means to, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so I have people reach out if it's like a Christian faith-based brand. I have people reach out and ask different types of questions. And I'm like, hey, faith is the most powerful thing in the world. Like, I'm just like, hey, we're not like specifically Christian faith, but we are faith. And, if that's Christian faith to you, then absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's, and we did like an awesome, like gold, like cool aesthetic that I'm super proud of. I had the opportunity to have another brand and kind of like go through some issues, or just like be able to look at something else and be like, oh, here's what I would do differently if I got another crack at it. And then I got to manifest all of that into Godspeed. And it's been going well, man. I just handed off fulfillment. I've been running everything out of my house. I've been running every single part of the business, all of the content, influencer management, running the Shopify backend operations, ordering product, communicating with manufacturers, every single part of it. And it's been tough and trying with a 16-month-old son. By
imagine.
myself, like half of the week, pretty much, because we're 50-50. And,
Nice.
but also, again, it's just like everything's happening at the perfect time. Pop passes away. It's like you sink or you swim. You have a son that's literally depending on you for its livelihood. You sink or you swim. And then there's good days and there's bad days. But ultimately, I always find the silver lining and like just remind myself of how far I've come. And it, I feel like most people can probably relate to that, because it's easy to get lost in the now of like, oh, this bill or like this relationship or this issue. But when we zoom out, it's like, whoa, we've made it so far.
I was going to ask, because we were talking about earlier about like intentionally throwing yourself into adversity and the growth that comes from it. I was going to ask about your, if you had any sort of religious background, because it made me think of, well, first of all, the name of this podcast is from the Bible, the Lion's Pit. Like I want to talk to people that are pursuing their lions that most people would run away from. Like, what are the challenges you're pursuing that most people would be afraid to go after? And that does come from the Bible. But I was going to ask specifically about, because the tale of Jesus walking on water, and they're questioning if it's actually him or if it's like a ghost. And he calls to Peter, like, if you believe, walk to me. And Peter steps out of the boat. And that is throwing yourself into adversity. Step out of the boat.
Mm-hmm.
If you have faith in what you're doing, step out of your boat and you'll walk on water. He starts to sink when he loses focus on Jesus. He's focusing on the storm because they're in the middle of a lake and there's a massive storm going on. And when he has blinders on and focusing on his faith and his journey, he's walking on water. But when he, again, starts to lose that focus is when he starts to sink.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about it, that. I'm so big into that as far as like putting yourself into that adversity where you will sink or you will walk on water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's when you were talking about that earlier. I was like, oh, I wonder if he's familiar with that.
Yeah. I'm familiar with a lot of the Bible, and I'm so curious. And I'm such a deep thinker, and I can be a skeptic at times. And I've been all around and studied the story of Buddha. And I grew up in a Christian household, and I have a cross tattoo right here. God is greater than my ups and downs right here.
Oh, nice.
My first tattoos were Christian tattoos. And, honestly, like, just to be completely honest, like I just deem myself a human, and along with everybody else right now. And I do have belief in the Bible, in Jesus, in this concept of God, and many things that we could discuss and be on the same page about.
Yeah.
And I'm also just like at this point where I went super deep into it.
Mm-hmm.
I went super deep into it, and I made spirituality my full-time job in order to heal. And so part of me was like, oh, I needed to, but then also I feel like part of the message, even at a Bible level, like how supposedly Jesus teaches the message of to find the kingdom of heaven from within.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is so resonant, because it means to like, how do you find the kingdom of heaven from within? That means like not seeking anything outside. It's like the kingdom, like it's essentially like the concept of you are saved. You just, you get to be and live this amazing experience that we've all been blessed into. And like it's like how they say, like, live every moment like it's your last. This is the moment. The time is now. Like, be present in the moment. That's how you get close to God. That's what I've been gravitating more so in my spiritual journey, trying to get outside of the conscious understanding of it and more so into the embodiment of what it means to, like, even just live for the highest good, not just knowing, like, because I feel like I understand a lot of the philosophies and principles. It's more so about, like, when you say, because he was focused on Jesus, it's like when you're focused, like, and so to me, that representation is like when you're focused on the highest good and everything that Jesus embodies and stands for, and you're doing your best and you're moving forward and you're, like, trusting in that. And I might say the universe at times, which I know can cause friction in these conversations because Jesus and the universe aren't the same thing. But it's just my verbiage to where I can help express my vision so that we can try to, like, see each other's narratives. But essentially I am always open to, like, I'm not a drifter, but I'm curious and I'm open to receiving new information. And, I that's really where I'm at with everything right now.
It's good
honestly.
To be curious, man. Yeah, it's great. I mean, that's how you find what you're looking for. You ask questions.
Yeah.
You be curious. You don't just accept what people are telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to go down that journey too, because I've had a lot of things to question.
Mm-hmm.
And it always brings me back to the same spot.
A lot of people say that they always come back to Jesus Christ. Yeah. And a lot of people that will seek to disprove Christianity will come back and be like, oh, actually, I just proved it by trying to disprove it, because they'll read all of the text in the scripture and, like, study, everything about it, which I haven't done fully. And so I can't even speak fully on it.
Sure, yeah.
And so that's really where I'm at too. I can't fully claim it if I can't fully even see it. And I know that that's where faith comes in. And you could say, well, you can't see faith. That's what faith is it's trusting.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have that too. And I think there's levels to it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you look at guys like even Rogan, like there's reels of him, like, early on in his comedic career where he's, like, openly mocking Christianity and how dumb people are for, like, having an imaginary friend. And now you listen to him and he's a church going, like, he's like, man, I think Christianity is the answer. You listen to a Huberman who's a scientist. Like, it's always interesting to me to hear, like, scientists coming back to it, because those are typically the guys that are, like, Big Bang Theory, like, all this stuff. And again, I'm right there too. Like, I don't know all the answers. I'm not very well versed in the Bible either. But again, for me, it always comes back to that. And like you're saying, you're starting to see people that really go out and try to disprove it or go out and question, and they're just curious individuals, kind of make their way back to it. It's for me, it is, every time I've put my faith ahead of me and I blindly pursue it, that's when things work out for me. And
me too.
I'm here and I shouldn't be.
Man, I agree so much. And so where I get muddled in the conversation about it, truthfully, when I'm trying to, like, really see somebody else's perspective or, like, get on the same page with somebody, it's through the verbiage, because I feel like the words always fail us whenever we're trying to talk about things. And so when you say Jesus, sometimes I can't tell if I'm talking to somebody and they're talking about the living man Jesus or the representation of Jesus, or, like, it can be a neurotic way of thinking. Our morals and values rooted in society, are stem from religion, a lot of them. And so I just think it's so important to be so tedious with the visions that we're crafting in the wordplay so that we can understand each other. And also just being open to the fact that, the words can fail us. And so that's, I have difficulty feeling understood and communicating with Christians sometimes because of, and I'll own everything about that, because it and it's not their fault or my fault. It's more so trying to communicate about a topic that is so passionate that people will literally live and die for, and that society has its morals and values rooted in, is just such a tedious subject. And so it's often like politics. If you, like, walk in, you try to talk to somebody about, like, Trump or Biden or whatever, like Obama, like, you've heard people like, oh my God, like, whoever it is, like, people are so, like, And they're like, if it's not Trump, it's not. And so like whenever I enter conversations and it's like, well, if it, you have to submit to Jesus. Sometimes it's like what I'll be met with. And I'm like, I'm not saying that that's not the truth, but I want to go deeper into that and like really understand what you mean by that and what that means to me and what that means to just everything. And so those are the layers that I've kind of lacked. And I'm not saying that they're not there.
Yeah.
I've met amazingly intelligent Christians that are so emotionally intelligent as well and like aren't like, and I'm like, whoa, like you're the type of Christian that I like, you got it going on.
Yeah, I vibe with.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I've, not that there's like a certain type that I don't vibe with. It's more so just like trying to feel seen and understood together so that we can like really see, not you and I, but just
kind of right now at this table.
I'm speaking cryptic basically, but.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up very strict like Catholic, like in the Catholic church. When I was living in California, like my grandpa was heavily involved in the Catholic church. My mom went to like an all-girls Catholic school. And for me, it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth because it's very like heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've through different life experiences, good and bad, I kind of found myself having my belief, but wandering away from the church. And when I moved out here, I met my now pastor, and he's just such a welcoming, like he's very funny. He's just like a dude. Like he's a dude, but like he's my pastor. Like I golf with him, I hang out with him. We talk sports all the time. But he just has like such deep and like warm, welcoming answers when I have questions that make me feel like that makes sense. Like that's totally, and he has an opinion on, you know, when you see someone that disagrees with you, like welcome them to your table. Don't just automatically like disregard them or discredit them. Like or someone that's questioning religion in general, like welcome them to your table and show them how you're living as a Christian. Don't just be like, oh, well, they're an idiot. Like, I don't want to hang out with that person. So it's something that like has been very eye-opening to me and like has made me feel comfortable going back to church to the point where I work for my church's safety team. Like amazing. I work security at my church now. But again, I'm 38, man. Like at 29, I was not about it. I'd go to church, I wasn't even like an Easter and Christmas guy. Like my ex-wife's family, they'd go on Easter and Christmas and that was it. I wouldn't even attend that. Like I would be like, no, like God doesn't take attendance. But really my pastor's like, don't underestimate what your presence means to other people and the light and energy that you bring. Like don't ever underestimate that. And that was a big lesson for me.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. And I've met a lot of Christians like that, and I think it's a beautiful thing because it's ultimately like, yo, we all do, I think, want the same thing at least, which is like peace, love, like
be a good person.
Be a good person.
Yeah.
Share this earth together. It's just such a deep topic. But,
for sure. Yeah.
It's honestly, yeah. I'm fascinated by it. And I want to read the Bible front to back.
Yeah.
So when you brought up Catholicism, it's like that was one of the main things that kind of pushed me away too, because from what I've read, Christianity stemmed in the East and was more orthodox and mystic. And then, you know, even Jesus, like these like powers that he had and the things that he was doing, like, you know, he was showing these people the way, the truth, and the life. And so they were also experiencing like gifts of sorts, I think. I believe from what I've at least understand about it.
Yeah.
And then it was migrated to the West, and throughout that turned into Catholicism, which kind of turned the methodology from finding the kingdom of heaven from within, like more mystic, to you must repent for your sins in order to make it to the afterlife.
Yeah.
And so that's where, like, you know, again, I'm not against Christianity or anything. I just am more so trying to be on the same page with people so that we can all be looking at things through a common narrative, and so that I can feel included and heard and understood by the majority, you know. And I just haven't quite like felt that 100% yet. And I can, you know, a lot of that is just me.
Yeah.
And just being open to it and different things, but it's a net positive, I think.
Yeah, it's a net positive. Well, again, man, keep being curious, keep asking questions, and you will find what you're looking for. So getting back to Godspeed, what's next?
So what's next for us is I'm very focused on growing the company pretty aggressively, like not, just for like dollar signs or anything, but in this industry, when you're fundraising and trying to grow a company, there's certain milestones that you really got to be on track with and hit if you want to continue to, like, whether it's bring in more money, whether it's be valuated at a certain valuation. We're going to be hard charging and I want to continue to get out into the community, meet new people, shake hands. That's where
Kiss babies.
Yeah, kiss babies. I brought my son with me to my last serving at Zilker.
nice.
It was a 150-person dance party, like vibing. My shirt was off, his shirt was off, ice cold lemonade. Like
Love
that's like, if I can have a vessel where I can do something I really, really enjoy and also spend time with my son in the middle of it and like work from home and all these different things, like I'm so blessed and I've come such a long way. And so I don't want to get too focused on like the percentages and like, growth outcomes, even though I am really focused on it right now. But I don't want to, at the same time, I just want to give myself some space with my son and just life and just be like, I just want to keep moving forward and I want to choose joy and I want to be happy and I want to be a human and live and experience all of it.
Yeah.
And that's what's on the horizon for me.
Nice. Any events on the calendar? You guys targeting anything coming up?
We have a brand new retail deal that's really special and amazing that I wish I could share on this podcast, but it will be dropping very soon. We just got our first major retail deal, which I'm super stoked about.
Congrats.
Thank you. And then events wise, we're going to Good Pain Run Club next Tuesday, which they probably won't hear this clip in time, but I try to go to at least 4 events per month right now. And again, I'm like basically running everything with my son. And so it's like, it's not as easy for me to make multiple events in one week, but anytime there's a fitness event or opportunity where I think Godspeed could be a good fit, I'm there. Like right after this, I'm heading to a pitch conference. Like we're fundraising with one of the best councils in the country. And like, I never even thought fundraising was possible. And I'm not trying to like, be the next General Mills or anything like that, but it's really expensive to have product and to manufacture product. And I did not have the money when I started this. And so yeah, that's like how, that's how I impact people around me. That's how my family gets fed. And so that's really what I'm focused on. And I want to improve the product, come out with new flavors, new products as well. So like not just
RTDs.
Yeah. Well, then my brother would start drinking it, if it's an RTD. I don't blame him. I like a nice fizzy can as well. It's really nice. And so we're working on all that stuff. You could probably expect to see it in the near future. And I know you're with Correct, and so I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to share this because we have some similar ingredients. But the thing is the products are geared differently. They are much different when it comes down to it at a deep level, and the space is so massive and so big that I think that there's space for everybody, and it's awesome to see that. Correct is also pushing similar ingredients because it means that they probably work, and it means
right, yeah.
It's like, okay, we're doing something right.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, man, I appreciate the opportunity and thank you for sharing about your pop and your story too. That, I found a lot of resonance and it was nice to go beneath the surface with you for the first time on this podcast.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, likewise, man. I think, kind of getting back into, Correct and Godspeed, man, it's abundance mindset, man.
Exactly.
Like, I don't have a scarcity mindset. If I did that as a podcaster, as a strength coach, like I would have way more gray hair than I have now. So
and less guests.
Yeah, I know. Like, no,
I can't have. I've already interviewed Primal Soldier 4 times, bro. Like,
there's only so many trainers I can interview, man. Yeah, Paul gets mad at me. He's like, quit bringing on like people in the fitness industry. So, that's awesome, man. I'm Godspeed on your journey.
Thank you.
Wish you nothing but luck. It's awesome to hear your story, have you open up about some stuff as well. That's the whole point of this like podcast is like get people's stories out there, because had I heard your story or my story at 21, like I would have known like, all right, cool. It does get better. It does get easier.
Mm-hmm.
So getting people out there and kind of like I said, getting people's stories out there of like, what challenges did you overcome to become who you are today? It's big on my heart. And, as like I said, if younger me could have heard it, he'd be like, okay, cool. Like life gets pretty good.
Mhm.
I get to do some fun shit. So I appreciate you coming on, telling your story. Why don't you, looking in that camera, tell people where to find you.
You guys can find me on Instagram at Godspeed is the future. I'm all in on my brand. The brand page is drink Godspeed. If you have any comments, questions about anything I've said, even if it has to pertain with Jesus, religion, anything at all, my DMs are always open. I love constructive conversation. Love to riff on this stuff. And I'll be getting you some Godspeed too.
I'd love to try it out, man.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's right up my alley.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, again, appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Of course. Yeah. And we'll have to run it back.
Yeah, absolutely. Part 2 incoming because we didn't talk about like so much. But we did talk about a bunch of good shit.
Yeah. Good content. But I think there's more in there.
Absolutely.
Again, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I am your host, Nick Gomez. With me today from Godspeed, Joe Phair. Shout out to Set, that is SETT. Go to getset.co. That is a new nicotine alternative pouch. And then shout out to Ghost Muay Thai. Check out both those companies. Use code THEPIT for a discount, and we will see you guys next time.